Alright guys, so we got the book out that everybody hates, and if you want one of these books, let me know. If you're using the Matrix product, you should have one of these books for sure. Just for a quick reference before you get started on any of your projects. And this book will allow you to do some reading. I like to read the footnotes, is what I always tell people. Look for the asterisks after the substrate that you're working on, and always read these footnotes. The footnotes are probably more important than the rest of this information. If you want all the good stuff, find the little paragraphs with the little stars by them and read the tech tips. So this is the tech tip for the aluminum. We're using the MP550. We're going to go over aluminum. You see the substrate, comparable substrates. Aluminum's right here, and it's got a little asterisk by it. So we're going to run down here and read it here. Comparable substrates required to properly clean and sand and treat prior to. This is hard to read through the camera. But anyway, it's basically telling us to clean it, prepare the surface. They want you to have a good scratch in it there. Down here they tell us 180 or 220 scratch. But do note here that they say to treat the aluminum with one of these three products. MP4 2K should never be used over bare steel, in my opinion. I don't sell a product unless I use it and try it. Now I remember trying this product. This is a direct to metal primer per se, is what it says right on the can, direct to metal. But if you go back in the P sheets and you read the fine print, the star, the asterisk, it says that that can only be used on a spot smaller than 6 inches. So that tells me that this product's failed over bare metal before, and they only want to be liable for 6 inches at a time. So I would never use that on bare steel. If you have bare steel and you're going to prime something, always throw a little MP550 down to get the proper adhesion. So we're going to use a little 550 over here, and we got it mixed up. It's 1-to-1. One part comes in a can, and then the acid part of this kit comes in a bottle, a plastic bottle. That's why I tell people I know Matrix sells an aerosol can of this, but you're not getting the same product that you're mixing right here. The reason this activator comes in a plastic bottle is because if you put it in a can, it would eat through the can, and they'd have leaky cans all over the country. So they have a form of Etch primer. It's not the exact same product as this. There's no way, no how, you know. So the only way to get the proper adhesion is to buy a 2-part component, or, you know, an etch that's made to go direct to steel. Our epoxy primer requires the 550. You know, you have to etch it first before you put the epoxy down. So here's the epoxy. This is our information sheet. What's up, Smokies? And you'll see right here, here's our substrates. They have aluminum, and again there's the asterisk, and then here's bare steel, and it has an asterisk. So if you go down here into the text, you'll see that it requires one of these three products again prior to applying the epoxy. MP4K 2K or MP4 2K, MP550 or the MP600. Again, I don't like the primer there. I like to use the 500 or the 600. The 600 is based off the it's very similar to the Veraprime that DuPont has. It's yellow in color, and same principle, you know. So most of you guys that work at shops know that etch primer is part of the process. I was talking to somebody on the phone, and I told him if you go to a dealership, you'll never see cheap Bondo or the lack of etch primer. You know, it's always used. And that's to cover the warranty part of it, you know. A lot of times as a consumer, if we go into a paint store, you know, one of the big pet peeves of mine is they like to sell epoxy primer as a sealer, as a primer, and as an epoxy. Well, they sell sealer. You know, they have different color sealers, and it's made to seal the paint, and you know, it's made for sealing. Now, you know, epoxy will do 3 different jobs. So if you're a jobber, it allows you to have one product on your shelf and sell it for 3 different things. But a shop will have all the different products at their hand. If you go into a dealership, you know, they'll have medium solid clear, they'll have high solid clear, they'll have all different ranges of temperature reducers, hardeners, the proper primers, etch primers, all that stuff will be in place. They know as a consumer you're not going to buy all that, but they should at least arm you with the information. So, all right, let's go out here and see what's going on. Grab the camera, get you guys outside. This etch primer is very stinky. I'm gonna have a mask on or spray it in a well ventilated area. What's up, buddy? You gonna weed eat? Huh? No? No? Hold on. Just asking. A little sleepy? A little sleepy. So we got the delamination feathered back. It's actually called electrolysis on aluminum. It's when sealer lets go and the aluminum starts to get some electrolysis in it. So we're going to put a light coat of this etch primer. And then we're going to go write the sealer probably over this. And then write the paint. Now this etch primer only needs to have 0.8 of a mil coverage, and this product is sort of see-through. If you get too much of this product on, it can not through dry and cause you some issues. So you don't want to be trying to cover, scratch, or anything with this. It's just all we're doing is treating the steel and giving it adhesion for the next step. And that's sort of the consistency and the way that product should look if it's mixed properly, 1-to-1. It's not a filler primer at all, and it doesn't cover any kind of scratch. Although they do say in the catalog that it'll cover a little more scratch in the 600, this should never be used as a filling primer. We'll let that flash off. The sun's out here, it's pretty hot. I'm gonna hit the edge here. Another thing that I want to note when it comes to priming, you'll notice that I have a small area here that's exposed, bare steel, but my fan is wide open. And you never want to narrow your pan when you're priming a car, because what happens is now, instead of getting the proper, let's just say 2.5 mils per coat, when you narrow this fan, when you narrow the fan down here and make the fan shrink, you're applying more material per coat than you think. So instead of putting the 2.5s per coat, when we narrow the fan down like that, we might be putting as much as 4.5 mils each time you pull the trigger, just because it's not atomizing that material and breaking it up. So if you find yourself shrinking your fan to do any kind of priming or painting, you're using the wrong gun. You know, reach for a smaller gun, a touch-up gun, whatever. But always open your fan where it atomizes the product. When you round the fan, you can experiment at home. Open the fan, take a piece of paper, pull the trigger. You'll notice that you get a pattern. As you close this down and pull the trigger, it'll start to run. You get a lot more product as you close this up. So if you are going to close this up, you need to choke the material down at the same time. And that's the amount that the trigger moves. But that's another tip that some people might be having when they prime. They're getting too much concentrated primer in too small of an area. So it's got to be atomized at the tip. That's the whole, I think, the whole thing about primer. Any primer can be put on too thick, and what happens is it'll just crack. So. our other issues, properly dry, can have different problems with it. Okay, so that's going to be it on the Etch prime. You know, we'll go ahead and cut this off so this video is not too long. But you can see the appearance of this primer. It's very light. It dries very quick. There's zero peel in it. If you're getting a lot of primer or a lot of peel in this, either your gun's not adjusted properly. I just sprayed this with an HVLP starting line. This is a popular gun. A lot of guys in the garage have this. But my fan adjustment was all the way wide open, and my fluid tip was wide open also. You know, full trigger pull. You can see it's not spread out that much, but we don't have a real concentrated amount of this. We can still see through it. It's the 0.8 mils that they asked for, and it should give us great protection and good adhesion for our next step. So the key to this stuff is not to put it on too thick and reduce it properly. It's definitely 1-to-1. Get a cup, get a stick, however you want to do it, but it does have to be measured. And if you're having a problem getting this on, you more than likely aren't getting the measurement correct, or you have the gun not adjusted properly. This is a fairly thin product, so you should get this on with not too much trouble, you know. But you do want the Etch primer to lay completely flat, obviously, because we're going to be top coating from here, and we don't want to be going over a lot of peel. So I hope that answers some questions about aluminum. That's the steps I take. Different products you can do different things with. I know there's some epoxies on the market that can go directly over bare aluminum or steel, but we have to remember one thing about epoxy. Most all epoxies rely on a mechanical scratch to get its adhesion, and we're using a chemical bond here. So the chemical process is a little more for sure, and you don't have to have as much scratch in the metal. So we can go right over the top of this with epoxy, and we're not feeling an 80 grit scratch this way. So that's one way not to put such a heavy tooth in the steel to start with. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off, and I hope you like that one.